to Simple Sacred Home. My name is Paige, and today I wanted to talk about how I am trying to create a habit of reading in my day-to-day life. Also, just share what I'm currently reading. I always find these videos interesting because if I watch a specific YouTuber that I really enjoy their content, I'm always interested to know what they're reading. I've never been a huge reader. I like the idea of reading, but to actually sit down and take the time to read, it's not something that I do very often at all. And I always have these lofty goals of how much I want to read for the year, and then I don't do anything close to that. But reading is something that I really want to spend more time focusing on and doing in my free time or my spare time, because I'm trying to create a love for reading from babyhood in my children, and I'm just in this stage of watching my toddler for the first time really show an interest for books, and it makes me so happy. And I just want to foster that in my children. I want them to grow up with a love for learning and a love for reading, and I didn't really have that. You know, my parents read to me as a child, but we watched a lot of TV, and I just think if I had had an environment as a child which fostered a love for reading, I might have loved it more as a young adult and an adult. So rather than just thinking about the fact that, oh, I wish I had grown up with this love for reading, I'm just deciding that you can fall in love with reading and you can make reading a habit in your day-to-day life at any age. So no matter what else you have going on, you can find ways to incorporate reading into your normal day-to-day routine. And so I'm going to share some of those as somebody who naturally doesn't gravitate towards picking up a book if she has a little bit of extra time. Normally I will watch a YouTube video. I'm not a huge TV or movie person as an adult, but I do love watching like YouTube videos or listening to podcasts. So that is my natural gravitation if I do have a few free minutes. But I wanted to share some of the things that I'm doing as somebody who doesn't naturally gravitate towards the books. So for me, I always have like multiple books that I want to read at the same time, and I used to be somebody who thought I had to read one book at a time. And what I realized is that I would have all these interests in books, but because I would take a while to read one book, I wouldn't get to the other ones. And so instead of just taking the time to read one book at a time, I'd end up reading none of them, which doesn't make a ton of sense, but that's just how my brain operated. Lately, I've been thinking about it in the sense of, obviously I don't want to be buying a bunch of books if I'm not reading them, but if there's a few books that I'm interested in and I'm interested in all of them at the same time, I will start multiple books at once. Let me know in the comments down below if you're somebody who's reading multiple books at the same time or not. Obviously, I think that can get confusing if you're reading all fiction, but for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of fiction. That is something I want to get more into. I've always been the type to think like, if I'm going to take the time to sit down and read a book, I want to like get something out of it that can hopefully like benefit and change my everyday life. It's mainly like Christian living that I like to read a lot if I'm going to take the time to read. But I've also been wrong in my mentality, because fiction is extremely important and extremely valuable for us to be reading for creativity. Honestly, there's so many benefits of reading fiction. It's just not something that I gravitate toward. That's why I don't think I really like movies either, because I'm like, that's not real life, you know? But storytelling is very beautiful. It's powerful. Creativity is beautiful and powerful. And so, yeah, fiction is a great thing to read, but I could see how if you were reading multiple fiction books, you might start getting like characters confused or plot points or storylines confused between the different books. So I can understand maybe not reading like 5 different fiction books at the same time. But if you're reading one Christian living book and you're reading your Bible every day, or doing a Bible study, one other type of nonfiction book, and maybe one fiction book, I think that that is totally fine. And that's the other thing for me, is that, like I said, I have always been somebody who gravitates towards more like nonfiction or historical books or Christian living books, which there's nothing wrong with those, obviously, but I was never drawn to fiction. So one of the habits that I'm building is by reading a few different books at a time. I'm trying to break out into different genres so that I am broadening my horizons and forcing myself to read things that I wouldn't necessarily gravitate towards. Okay, so I had to have a brief intermission, so the lighting might look different. I apologize for that. But I wanted to share with you what books I'm currently reading. So number one is the Bible, and this is one of my rules, is that in order to read any other book, I have to make sure that I spend time in God's word first. Of anything I could read, this is the most important thing for me to be reading. So I try to make it a priority to read this, and it's basically just a rule. Like, I can't read anything else until I read this. Currently I'm in Judges. I don't think I've fully ever read through Judges, so I had asked my husband if he wanted to read a book with me, and he picked Judges. I'm glad he picked Judges because I don't think I probably would have picked that on my own. Read one chapter a day, keep it really simple. It makes it really manageable, but I'm also spending time in the Word. And then especially when I'm in the Old Testament, I sometimes feel like even though there's so much connection to the New Testament, there's so much connection to Jesus, you just have to look for it. Sometimes I find like if I'm reading in the Old Testament for a while, I want to read the New Testament, the Gospels. So I've been reading A Beautiful Year with Jesus. This is the 365-day Bible devotional from Alabaster. And what I really like about this one is it is not dated. So it's really nice. You can pick it up whenever. You don't have to follow it every single day. And it just has a verse and then a little devotion to go with it. Okay, the next one that I'm reading is Hunt, Gather, Parent. This one is interesting. I've heard a lot of moms talk about it, so it was one that I kind of purchased on a whim, and I was interested to give it a read. So far, it's not a Christian parenting book, so obviously I don't expect to agree with everything, but I'm always interested to hear different perspectives. I don't love so far, literally within the first chapter of the book, they've kind of bashed the nuclear family. I understand kind of their perspective, which I do get, but I think they're missing a little bit personally, but that's just my opinion. So yeah, I can't say if I would recommend this for a Christian family or not, but I am reading it. So if you are interested in a review when I'm done with this, if I'd recommend it as a Christian family, what my overall thoughts were, let me know. I also have The Well-Trained Mind. This one is by Susan Wise Boyer, and I've heard that this is a great book to read when learning about classical education in the home school setting. So I'm really excited to be reading this one as well, and let me know if you're interested in my thoughts on this one after I finish it as well. Okay, and then the last one is Pride and Prejudice. I got this book last year when I was postpartum, and I started it and didn't get very far. So we're picking it back up. I did watch the BBC series and I loved it. So I'm really excited to read the actual book by Jane Austen. Okay, so now that I've shared a little bit of the context of where I'm coming from, what books I'm currently reading, I wanted to share things that I'm doing to create a habit of reading every day. To utilize nap time. Now, I know this is specific to me as a young mom who has children that are napping. Not everybody has that, but if you have older children, you might partake in a quiet time, or you might have other pockets of time that you can make it work. So I'm just speaking from my personal experience, where I'm at with the children that I have. For me, utilizing nap time is huge. I have a toddler, and so I have a guaranteed nap time most days. Sometimes it doesn't work out as planned, but for the most part, I can expect to nap every single day between a certain time frame, and I really utilize nap time to do things that I want to do or need to do. I try not to be cleaning the house at that time if I can avoid it. While I'm pregnant, I take a nap sometimes, or I'll get things checked off my nesting or to do before baby comes list. I place like our grocery order, anything that I need to be on my phone for, I typically will do during nap time because I try to stay off it when my baby is awake. So I try to utilize that at nap time. Sometimes I will edit my YouTube videos or film my YouTube videos. And then the other component or thing that I like to do during nap time is something for me. So it might be working on a quilting or sewing project. It might be reading, it might be watching a YouTube video that I've wanted to watch or a podcast that I've wanted to listen to. What I try to do is during every nap time, I try to get at least a little bit of reading in. So I don't put this big pressure on myself. I do have a rule, like I said, that I have to read my Bible first. So if I haven't read my Bible by the time nap time comes around, I'm gonna start there. I'm gonna read my chapter of the Bible for that day, and then if I am still interested in continuing to read, I will pick up one of the books. It doesn't matter which one, so depending on the day is what I'll pick up, and I will read just a chapter, or even if I don't get a full chapter in, whatever I can do, I will take advantage of that time because that's time that is set aside for me. And so I know I have this designated time where I can sit down and I can read something. So utilize nap time, utilize a quiet time where you can sit down for a few minutes, read a couple pages, read a chapter, or read as much as you possibly can in that time. If you're somebody who isn't a big reader, taking it really slow, say, I'm just gonna read a chapter, or I'm gonna read a few pages. It'll build that habit of reading every day, and it doesn't have to be this long drawn out thing if you don't want it to be. The next thing is something that you might be like, whoa, that's a little intense and I'm not going to do that, but it's really helped me, and that is switching to a flip phone. Now, you don't have to switch to a flip phone. You can do a dumb phone, a wise phone, whatever you want to do. But let me tell you, if you are carrying around a flip phone, you are not going to be tempted to grab for your phone. So when you're in places like waiting rooms, doctor's offices, anywhere that you have a few minutes, like I recently just went and got my nails done, and normally that would be a time where I would just like scroll on my phone and like look at Pinterest and check my emails and maybe watch a video or listen to a podcast. Now I just have my flip phone and I will bring a book. And so the other day I had my entire pedicure time where I just got to sit down and read, which is really nice, really good for my mind, and super productive because, like I said, it's something that I want to do more of, but finding the time can be hard. So little things like that, where maybe you're in a waiting room, maybe you're at the doctor's office, maybe you're waiting to pick up your kids from school or dance or basketball, whatever it is. Instead of just sitting and scrolling your phone at that time, make the phone not something that you can even be tempted by, and always keep a book on you in your bag so that you can grab that instead of your phone. Another tip is to get a book light. So this one I actually got from Home Goods. It was like $6, I think. It just clips onto your book. This one is huge because I always would say like, oh, I'd love to read at the end of the night before I go to bed, but I don't want to like have to have a light on and disturb my husband or whatever. So having a book light makes that not a problem. So I really, really like this option, and I just have to remind myself to start keeping the book that I want to read before bed next to my bed, because I definitely do gravitate towards like watching a YouTube video at that time, but having the book light solves my problem of not wanting to keep a light on and keep other people awake that don't want to be. Also with breastfeeding or just being up at the night with the baby, I've heard that with breastfeeding, reading is a great option because you don't want all the screens and all the lights on, especially if it's in the middle of the night for your milk supply and whatnot. I plan on utilizing this postpartum as well. Just have a little light and then you can read before bed. And if you have other people in the room, you're not going to have this big bright light on from a lamp or something like that. Okay, and then my last tip is a book basket. So basically I just have this basket. Any basket will do. I keep all of my current books in here. So I have like my Bible case with my Bible in here, whatever books I'm currently reading, and then any Bible studies or notebooks and journals. I have quite a few actually. different ones that I have going. And then I'll usually keep like a pen or a pencil, highlighter, things like that in here. What I like about this, especially one that has like handles, is that I can carry this around the house. So I usually will keep it in the bedroom because that is primarily where I will end up reading. But I've also brought this out into the living room. Sometimes, if I can, I do like to read my Bible in the morning, and so having this in the living room is nice because I can put it on my side table, and it's basically just like prompting me, like, hey, make sure you sit down and read a little bit, spend some time in the Bible, spend some time in your devotional or your Bible study. So I like it for that reason, but I can also bring it room to room with me. So if I want it in the living room in the morning, I can do that. If I want it in our bedroom for nap time, I can do that, or at the end of the day. So keeping it all in a basket is also going to keep it all organized and all right there for you, so you don't have to go looking for the specific books. I just keep all the books that I just showed you in here with my journals, with my notebooks, and I can just grab whichever book I want at that particular time. It really just makes it convenient. So I hope this video was encouraging to you if you, like me, are not somebody that naturally gravitates towards reading in your spare time. I hope this video encourages you to start making a habit of reading. I know that in the long run, I'm going to be so grateful that I started this habit. If you guys like this video, make sure you like it and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.